Mythical DM. Well, Baldur's Gate 3 has launched its version 1.0 after 6 years in development to be the highest rated game of all time. They had an insane 875,000 concurrent players on Steam, and they have a Metacritic score of 97%. This game is amazing. Yes, I have played it, and I'm about 30 hours into it. I have a single playthrough, but I'm also focusing on a fun multiplayer with Aklodava and Mr. Westel from my Kingmaker series. Now, I know that I've said that I had no intentions of giving Wizards of the Coast any more money. Funny story. I heard that Baldur's Gate 3 was available about a year ago. I had no idea it was early access, so I paid some cash, downloaded it, played to the opening area of the Nautiloid, and found the game buggy and the camera angles were all over the place, so I just stopped. I was planning to refund it, but I left it too long in my Steam library, so it was ineligible at that point. It stayed on my desktop as a sad little icon for at least a year or more. Then I heard it was launching its full version, and I had a few days off, so I picked it back up again. And it has been an amazing experience. Truly a masterpiece in the RPG genre. I'll talk about what it can do for and against Wizards in another video, but for now I want to talk about what GMs can take away from this game. Some things are more pointedly at 5e, but a lot of them will be general advice for all game masters, no matter what system you're playing in. So let's get chatting, shall we? First thing to take away from the game is having a narrative story and robust NPCs. When I started the game, I immediately ran into Lizelle and Shadowheart. Right from the first few minutes, I was just enthralled by the complete differences in styles that these two had. They're very much polar opposites of each other, and it really comes to a head in later Act 1. What I found is characters such as Shadowheart and Gale and Will have very intricate backstories, but I cut Gale loose early, so I've not seen him since, so maybe I'll meet him again and get some more story. I'll keep him around in my solo playthrough though, so at least I can find out more at that point, I hope. Now, the others do not really have that much in depth, or at least, again, not that I've seen so far in my playthrough, but they all have some tidbits that can push the story along. In Baldur's Gate 3, they help push you towards specific quests, and having them along at certain times does alter the story choices and interactions with other NPCs, whether good or bad. Game masters can really learn from this by using NPCs to form both friendly and antagonistic relationships. This game has some indifferent NPCs as well, and some that are outright slappable, but they all have one thing in common. They elicit a response from the players. I have some very good friends in the pro wrestling circuits, and they have always said, no matter how the crowd reacts to you, either cheers or jeers, the important thing is that they are reacting to you. The Larian team has done a fantastic job in giving all the NPCs some emotional response that you will have to them. Pity, anger, annoyance. Now, come on, how many of you punted that squirrel? Be honest. Respect, love, etc. are all present in the various NPCs that you interact with. This is incredibly important for GMs. Some NPCs just need to be loathed. They need to be roadblocks, and they need to be problems to your players. It is an important tool in your storytelling. NPCs can also serve so many different roles to your game, not just being the big bad guys to overcome or the quest givers and mentors, but so much more. Next, we can see the importance of running a slot zero or session zero. In Baldur's Gate 3, there are many opportunities to become romantic with pretty much every NPC, whether you want to or not. There's a very important lesson here about why it's important to speak to your players regarding this type of storyline. Now, Baldur's Gate 3 has multiple NPCs that you can romance. This can be a bit jarring if you're not aware of it. There are also many memes online about the Baldur's Gate 3 being a dating sim with combat thrown in. You will find images of the bear encounter, if you know, you know, threesomes, LGBTQ encounters, etc. And if you're not interested in that sort of thing, it can really detract from the gaming experience. Larian Studios should have programmed in a quick set of questions before the game even began if you're okay with these kind of options. Some people just are not, and it should not be tossed at your players without some forewarning. I have an entire video about the reasons you should run a session zero that you can check out in the links below. So next up, this is kind of a big category of bending the rules and homebrewing. How to incorporate some of the rule structures from BG3 to allow players to try new things, such as shove and jump being bonus actions. In 5e, they are all actions. Jump is used as part of your move. Shove is part of your full attack, and it is an attack. In Baldur's Gate 3, shove is a bonus action, and in 5e, it could be used to move someone, let's say 5 feet, maybe 10. The tactics this would create would certainly be worth the reworking. And in Pathfinder 2e, it is a single action with critical effects, both on a failure and a success. So as for jump, you cannot get too far with it because it's based on your strength. So honestly, why not? In Baldur's Gate 3, monsters use this with great efficiency, and it creates absolute chaos in the battles and increases the fun, in my opinion. In a battle we had with an owlbear and a phase spider, this came as a surprise to our group when suddenly I, who am playing a caster who stays out of melee, and our rogue who is range spec were suddenly face to face with these monsters and knocked prone to boot. This kind of mechanic on monsters would absolutely ramp up the chaos in your game, and I would be all for it. One of the big things is casting full level spells multiple times in a turn in Baldur's Gate 3, and I believe that is way overpowered. So in Baldur's Gate 3, it is possible, with the correct multi-class, to cast 4 fireballs per round per short rest. This is due to the structure of actions and casting. Now in 5e rules as written, you can only use a cantrip after casting a leveled spell. Prime example of this is Misty Step. If you use it as your bonus spell, it is a level 1, and therefore your action then can only be to use a cantrip, not in Baldur's Gate 3. You can cast a fireball, use a sorcery point to quicken your spell, use your bonus action, cast another fireball. If you're second level fighter, you can action surge. There's your third fireball. If you have haste cast upon you already, another full action, so you can cast another fireball. Now, many people pointed out, oh, sorcerer needs 4 third level slots. Well, that's not correct. You need 1. Then you just need 3 scrolls of fireball and hilarity ensues. Now I could easily see DMs using a house rule that casting a first or even a second level spell after casting any other spell. Using Misty Step, then a magic missile, sure, I would allow it. It's when you get into third level spells that it becomes an issue, as those start to really change the course of battles, both for and against your players. Remember that any house rule you create should be for both PCs and NPCs, so tread carefully on implementing something like this. I'd love to hear what you think about allowing first or second level spells to be cast alongside as a bonus action. What combos can you think of that could break the game at such low levels? I'd love to hear it. One of the really good things in Baldur's Gate 3 is using potions as a bonus action, and I say why not? So one of the things it does, it allows you to consume a potion or other consumables, not just potions, as a bonus action. And this is really powerful, but to me, not game breaking. They allow you to throw potions at or even near people, so kind of using them as a healing splash grenade in game. Not sure I'd be allowing that part in my game, but then again, it's a very interesting option for your table. Again, let me know in the comments what you think of that kind of tactic. Again, it goes both ways. So tossing a harm potion into a group of undead that are in the thick of things with your players could heal the undead and hurt the players, and the reverse with a healing bomb. Now, one of the things Baldur's Gate 3 has implemented really fun weapon properties. Now 5e is trying this with the new weapon proficiencies, but Baldur's Gate 3 has a way more robust mechanics for each of the weapons. So swords have things like pommel strike, lacerate, rush attack, where a mace has concussive smash. Others have options like flourishing, piercing strike, crippling strike, cleave, and even staves have a topple. Players in Baldur's Gate 3 do not have to have weapon proficiency with them. They have to be proficient with the weapon. In 5e, the new mechanic is weapon proficiency, and only the martial classes get this. In Baldur's Gate 3, anyone who's proficient in the weapon may use these abilities. So again, these are either usually a bonus action. Some do take full actions or part of your full action, mind you, but the trade-off is more fun than just, I swing, I hit, and we're off to the next player. So the last thing for home brewing is inspiration points. Now in 5e rules as written, you must declare using inspiration before the roll. In Baldur's Gate 3, and really most home games, it works like hero points do in Pathfinder 2e, where you see the result of the dice roll, then you toss in your hero point, inspiration in 5e, and you get a reroll. It works very much like 5e's halfling luck, but I think this is a better way to use inspiration than rules as written. Now, using the environment in creative ways. Shoving, climbing, height advantage, explosive barrels. I've spoken about this in my video about punching up encounters, and Larian Studios really takes this concept to heart. First thing to remember though is that NPCs know the terrain as well or better than the PCs would, especially if the PCs are intruding on the home turf of the NPCs. So as a GM, you should be using more things like ledges, furniture, smoke barrels, etc. to increase the complexity and tactical possibilities of any encounter. If you allow jump to be a bonus action, as I just previously discussed, this can really change the way battles look in your game. Players trying to get into higher elevations, trying to move around the battlefield with the jump, etc., or monsters doing the same thing. Now, remember that some hazards will wipe parties. I've had to restart several sections of Baldur's Gate 3 because I did not see a pile of smoke barrels that were near where I was standing, and an NPC fired a flaming arrow in and literally nuked us off the map. Baldur's Gate 3 also gives a slight bonus if you're shooting at someone and you have higher elevation. Normally it's a +2. The reverse is true as well. Ranged attacks at someone higher than you suffer a slight penalty. Again, it's a -2. You can see it when you hover over a target. The game tells you if you have better or worse odds against a target. Normally the elevation difference is about 10 feet in the game, so 2.5 meters. Shoving in Baldur's Gate 3 is insanely fun. Pushing things and people off cliffs is a sport in the game. It is incredibly tactical to maneuver yourself so that your shove sends an opponent to their death. Now, sometimes it just knocks the NPC out for a few rounds and then they try to get back to you, but the AI can be a bit wonky in the game and it does odd pathing. But remember that if this is an option for PCs, NPCs can and should use it as well. Now, this could be very bad for your PCs if their bodies land in a place non-recoverable. So lastly, a word about the game itself. This game took over 6 years to create. Yours will take time as well. Larian Studios had 400 developers, including multiple writers, narrators, voice actors, and more. Not many of us have that kind of time to make such a masterpiece, but you can create the same style of story as you go. Campaigns take years. NPCs will come and go and be fleshed out over time. Listen to your players and find out which NPCs they are responding to. And again, remember, even if it's a negative response, as in they don't like that NPC because they're a bad guy, that's a good thing. Now, you can check out my other videos on creating NPCs, intriguing combat, and adventure writing if you need some advice on those topics. As I stated before, if you're just starting out in your own world, I would suggest just using some pre-made adventures to get your feet wet before you dive right into world building. Now, if you are ambitious and need some pointers, I have a few videos about world building, encounter creation, and creating good NPCs and more. You can check out all those as well. Well, that's it for now. I'd love to hear what lessons you have learned from Baldur's Gate 3. Are you planning to incorporate any of their game mechanics into your own? I would love to know. Just try to remember not to post any spoilers though. Some of us, myself included, have not finished the game. Now, if you're interested in more content from me, please remember to like and subscribe to the channel, and you can even hit that bell for notifications on new videos. I try to post every Wednesday, and with your support, I can make that happen. Thank you all for watching, and may all your games be full of myth, mirth, and magic.